This video is on how to do a stitched hem. Several people were asking on how wide to do the little selvage here. This is 1.5 inches. I have done as small as 1 inch, and I find it can be a little difficult because it gets very narrow once you fold it up. So I recommend 1.5 inches to 2 inches. I'm teaching my mother-in-law and she's about 2 inches on hers. It makes it a little easier. So it just depends on what your fingers can do. 1.5 inches is about what I like to do now. This will all get trimmed off here. This is just between the rugs. I have about 4 rugs to sew tonight, so I am going to show how to roll it and how to stitch it. So quick little basics. I will trim right on here. I'm not worried that a few of these are coming out. I may even like cut them a little bit here and there. And once I roll it, it'll all blend in real nice. I do try to tuck, after I cut all these as short as I can, I'll tuck that corner in, and I don't know if it'll show very nice on the video, but then I'll roll about 1/3 of the way and then another 1/3. So then this hem or edge will be tucked inside and no one will see it. I run 1 stitch down the center of that roll, and then I will come back and as close as I can where it's going to come to the edge of the rug, I'll put another stitch because I don't want this pulling up, someone tripping on it. And I'll show you how I do that, and I'll show you a couple techniques of clipping it. I don't clip it anymore, I just roll and do it as I go, but it is easier, especially for beginners, to get like clothespins, the clothesline pins. I have some plastic ones, and so I just can pull off. If you do needles, then you have to stop and pull them. These are quite big, so they come off quite easy. So we'll start. Alright, so now I'm going to trim off all this extra threads here and try to get it as flush as possible. Try not to cut, of course, the rest of the hem, but if you get some of these that are starting to pull out, you can see like this one's starting to come out, I'm not worried about getting those. Very simple. And you can see I have some little bit longer ones here. I'm not worried about it. I just wanted to get most of the tails off. Get that out of the way. These were the clothespins that I use. They're plastic ones. I believe I got them for using outside, but I don't have a clothesline anymore. So they work quite nice. They got a nice spring and they hold really tight. You can use wood ones, but I found that these really pinch down. So what we're going to do is, I've got a handful of these. You take, like I said, I always have a few extra long ones here, so kind of just pull that corner in just a hair. And I'm going to fold this to the halfway mark, or about 1/3. So you can see about how far in I folded that. And then I'll fold it one more time. I'm not worrying about the rest of it because it'll all fold in once I have the start of it. And then clip it. Once you get pretty good at this, you can actually just start sewing. It'll hold it down and then finger fold as you go. So, and that's how wide that will be with 1.5 inches. If you do 1 inch, and I can do 1 inch, I have some people that want smaller hems on these, so I will fold, it'll be quite smaller, but then you're really struggling on here. Okay. I'm just finished folding them over. And it almost just rolls on itself once you have it started at the top. And I do one side, I won't trim down the other side until I have this side sewn. I do like to make sure that I have them rolled the same on each side. And what I mean by that is this curls in this way. I don't want it to be reversed on the other side. I'll show you in a moment. Once I get this all sewn up. And then on the end, again, I kind of tuck that corner in, and then I give and you don't even notice it's tucked in, but then I don't have to worry about any threads coming loose on that end. And I double stitch on both ends pretty good. So, and you can already see how it's going to look. I'm going to set up the sewing machine and show you. Okay, the video may shake a little bit just from the sewing machine. I'm on my coffee table in the living room instead of down in my quilting room. Alright, I take off the first one and I'm still holding it. I have my needle set on a straight stitch right in the center, and I'm going to line it up, and I'm sewing straight down, right down the center. I'm not worried. I will come back and then I will stitch as close as I can. I'll move my needle over so I stitch down right next to the warp. Alright, you'll see my hand a few times in the way, and I apologize. And I'll back stitch. Ooh. That is bouncing quite a bit. See if we can get a video not so bouncy. Okay, I'm gonna try to do this one-handed while I hold this. So there we go. That light is kind of. If you can see, I am right down the center. I wish I could turn this light off so you can see a little better, but. Usually I can get this done in really fast. I get to the end of it, and of course I'm going to back stitch, and I do it pretty good because this is where I have the most fear of it having some damage. So back stitch a few times, and then I will pull this out. I have a brother. And I love this sewing machine. It's very simple, can do quite a bit, except very common on here, it has a thread cutter, and it was a very nice option, but that's the first thing to go. I guess the blades, once they get dull, they can jam up the machine because instead of cutting it, it kind of pulls it in. So I have no problem. I do love the self-threading, so if anyone is in the market for a sewing machine, these are very nice. Let's see, what's the brand? The brother. It's the SE 400. Alright, now I don't need the clothespins anymore. And I will adjust my needle over. So whatever way you have to move your needle over, and I'm going to be right on the edge here. is just coming down right here, because right now this could pull over this way. Sometimes I didn't hook it. You can see the threads right here. And this way I make sure that extra flap has been hooked. And that one is done. The threads blend in. I have white on white. I'll use black on the black one. I have to see if I have some black thread left. I think I might have used it all up. So I'll finish up my two that have the black. I'll trim these up so you won't even notice. And from this side you don't even see the little edge, and then on here sometimes I will zigzag. Depends on how I feel. Zigzag is really nice. If I do the 1 inch and I want a really small one, I will zigzag so I make sure that I'm catching everything. So 2 straight stitches, or you could do the 1 straight stitch. I always do the 1 straight stitch and not a zigzag. And then the one closer, if you feel comfortable, you can do the zigzag. Now I'm going to do the other side. Now when I mentioned I like to have both sides look the same. Here is where it's rolled, and I have that little lip. It won't come up at all. And so the rug top is this way, and I'm going to want to roll it this way instead of roll it the other way. So if the customer wants to have a very flat side, they may not even notice most likely, but I just like to have it uniform. So when it's up on this side, it'll look exactly the same on both edges. And it's all preference. There's really no rules to this. You could zigzag instead of straight stitch. It's just what you're comfortable with. I used to zigzag, do 1 zigzag on it. I change up my style quite a bit. So the triple roll I think is the only thing that really stays the same. This was the beginning of the rug tied down on the loom. So these of course are a little longer. And I want to trim these down. And then we'll stitch this one. I think when I first started doing this was the scariest part, because I'm like, what if I mess this up? I could probably snip in 1/4 of an inch and still be absolutely fine because I'm rolling it, maybe even a 1/2 inch. Prefer not to. You just zigzag over it if you accidentally do that. You can see some of them still coming out a little bit here. There's a piece of, it's all fine. It's all going to be rolled and you won't even see that. Alright, now the roll. Let's see if I can get in the video here. I finger press and fold the corner in just a little bit. Fold it in half, 1/3 of the way. You can see the other 1/3. Either start sewing, or I'm going to clip it and then fold it the rest so everyone can see. If you're beginning at it, I recommend. You can, like I said, you can use the pins. They work just fine. Here's another style. I used to quilt, so these worked really nice on holding on bindings. But when I am doing this, I just want to pull them off, and this will slide off easier than this one. You have to push down and pop it. If you're gonna do a smaller hem, the 1 inch, I recommend definitely clamping it down. It'll make it a lot easier because it does want to unroll. Being this wide, it tends to just keep its shape. So down here again, I want to tuck in that corner. And I will clamp that end. Alright, I'm going to start sewing that in just a moment. Same way, one line down, and when I'm done I'll come back and I will stitch next to the edge. Alright, again I'm going to do this one-handed so it doesn't get too bouncy. I did take that end one off, but I already have it underneath the foot here, and I'm going to put the foot down. There we go. So sorry about moving around. I think someone asked if this takes a long time and if it's worth the investment. The warp, I guess, I would put in here, which is just the same as these threads. Your weft, I guess. It's just the last of the rolls that you don't want to put on your loom because you know it's going to run out. Just save those little spools, and that's what you use on the end here. I don't know, I think sewing goes pretty fast. I'm going quite slow now, but I can whip through this quite fast. So I think that's going to be about the same, if not take a lot less time than sitting here and knotting them, but it goes with experience. I think people who tie them off and have the fringe is going to be a lot faster than I would be if I was starting that. I've never done the fringe. The person that I give these to sell, she doesn't like having the fringe. She had one of her weavers get sued by a lady who bought one, and then she tripped on the fringe with her high heels. The weaver ended up winning because it's all rugs are trip hazards, so it's not a big deal, but it just makes it easier. And I know a lot of people that have pets and they prefer this. Cats can chew on them, dogs can chew on them. I have tortoises, they could chew on them, so I just sew this down instead of having the fringe. So here we go. Back stitch a little bit. So much easier with two hands. My husband's sick, so he can't take a video today, so you just get a little bit of a wobbly video. And that came unrolled right there. Just tuck it in and it's all fine. For some reason I didn't go dead down the center and it didn't hook it. That second stitch would be my little extra protection. Alright, got the last one, make sure my corner, and that's just out of experience where I just tuck that corner and you won't even notice once this is stitched down. But I don't, every once in a while you might get a tail of a thread here and that just bugs me. Done on that step, and then I will come through and do the second stitch. Alright, so I moved my thread, my needle over to the very end, to the very left I guess, and I'm going to just stitch down, and I think that light steals a lot of what I'm doing here, but I'm just coming down on the very edge and hooking this. Like I said, you can do a zigzag if you're more comfortable with that. If you're doing the 1 inch, this is going to get pretty narrow. I recommend doing a zigzag here. Okay, and here is my custom order hit and miss. Hopefully you can see the lovely burgundy, tan, and brown. I had someone request this. I think it turned out quite nice. So there is my, and if you don't feel like you got close enough, go back and put a third stitch down. So there it is. Sturdy. It's not going anywhere. Let me know if you have any questions.